Welcome to our channel. Today, our subject of discussion is another important paint defect, that is, pinholes, in the painting of automobiles, motorcycles, and scooters. We shall be discussing the pinholes definition, its photograph, causes and countermeasure, the repair method along with technical notes and remedy, and finally, introduction to the next topic. Pinholes are tiny craters like holes or voids that appear on the surface of the paint, primer, filler, etc. They occur when trapped solvents, air, moisture, or contaminants attempt to escape during drying or curing, but fail to release smoothly. As a result, the microscopic bubbles burst and leave a small depressions on the finished surface. This defect is commonly caused by improper surface preparations, that is, dust, oil, sanding, residue, porous fillers, and then applying thick coats of primers or a top coat, or inadequate flash of time between coats, high solvent content or fast evaporating thinners, and moisture contaminants from compressed air or environment. Pinholes negatively affect surface gloss, smoothness, and appearance, and often require sanding and refinishing to correct it or to fix it. Here are the three photographs related to the pending defect pinholes. Coming to the causes and countermeasure, number one, probable cause could be dry spray formation. That is, application of color coats over an undercoat or color coat which has dried or was sprayed dry. When the lower film partially cures or forms a dry, porous surface, trapped solvents from the top coat cannot migrate outward. This creates micro voids that rupture into pinholes during solvent flashing. The recommended countermeasure is maintain correct distance, overlap, and wetness of film. Ensure undercoats remain within the recoat window and avoid dry spray. Number two, probable cause could be incorrect viscosity and low atomizations. That is, air bubbles trapped due to high viscosity, low gun pressure, hot and high flow air causing poor atomization and rapid skin drying. High viscosity plus insufficient atomization produces coarse droplets containing micro bubbles. High boost temperature velocity accelerates surface curing, trapping volatile components beneath the skin, forming pinholes during outgassing. Therefore, what is recommended is ensure correct paint viscosity and gun pressure, control booth temperature and airflow. Third probable cause could be residual pinholes in old films, that is, pinholes in the existing finish not completely removed before repainting. Existing voids in the substrate act as a gas escape channels. New paint fills but does not fully seal these voids. Trap air expands during curing, recreating pinholes on the new surface. Therefore, thoroughly sand the substrate to completely eliminate the old pinholes. चौथी वजह जो मुमकिन हो सकती है, that is incorrect stopper filler knifing. Poor knifing technique when applying stopper body filler. Applying stopper at a shallow angle entrains air into the filler. These air pockets expand during baking or solvent release, creating micro craters that appears as pinholes after coating. Remember, knifing is the process of applying body filler, stopper, or tray, etc., using a flexible metal knife or spatula to fill surface imperfections before painting. In this case, the recommended counter is knife filler at about 90 degrees to surface so that the material is pressed into voids instead of rolled back out. The fifth probable cause could be unsealed filler or a stopper. Unsealed filler or stopper areas before painting. Body fillers are porous without primer surface sealing. Solvents penetrate and displace entrapped air, causing outgassing through the wet film, creating pinholes. Therefore, the countermeasure is seal all filler areas with primer surfacer before applying top coat. Number six probable cause is excessive booth temperature. That is, the temperature is too high, causing flash off that is too rapid. Excess heat accelerates solvent evaporation from the top layer while the lower layer remains wet. Solid bubbles burst, resulting in pinholes. इसलिए the countermeasure is maintain booth temperature within the paint manufacturer's specified range. Seventh probable cause could be excessive air movement, that is, air velocity too high in spray booth. High airflow strips solvents too quickly from the surface, creating a dry skin over the wet layer. Internal outgassing then ruptures that skin. Therefore, the recommended countermeasure is adjust air balance, duct direction, and fan speed to reduce turbulence. Eighth probable cause could be wrong thinner or reducer. Solvent blend too fast for environmental conditions. Fast thinners raise the gradient between surface and internal film volatility, causing skinning and bubble formation. Therefore, the recommended countermeasure is use appropriate thinner grade per ambient temperature, as per ambient temperature. नवी मुमकिन वजह क्या हो सकती है? Improper film thickness. Excessive wet application of the paint. It can be technically explained as thick film traps solvents longer, incomplete escape results in bubbles pushing upward during curing. Wet film thickness is the thickness of the paint layer immediately after it is applied, before any drying or curing take place. DFT is expected dry film thickness. Therefore, for example, dry film thickness is equal to wet film thickness into volume solids percent. That is, example, If volume solid is 50% and wet film thickness is 100 micron, then DFT, that is dry film thickness, would be approximately 50 microns. In this case, the recommended countermeasure is apply recommended wet film thickness. 10वीं मुमकिन वजह contamination or moisture. Moisture or contamination on the surface. Moisture expands rapidly when heated, creating micro explosions beneath the coating film, resulting in pinholes. The recommended countermeasures clean, dry, and degrease substrate. Ensure compressed air is moisture free. 11th probable cause could be incorrect flash of time, that is, insufficient drying times between layers. If the undercoat is still releasing solvents, the next layer traps them, causing bubbling or pinholing. Therefore, follow specified flash off times. 12वीं मुमकिन वजह over reduction of paint, that is thinner ratio too high. Excessive solvent increases internal bubbling as the paint flashes too aggressively. Therefore, use correct mixing ratio. 13th cause could be low booth humidity. Very dry environmental conditions accelerate surface drying. Low humidity, increasing evaporation rate, making the surface cure prematurely, that is classic, resulting in classic pinhole generation. Therefore, maintain controlled humidity, typically 40 to 60%. Coming to the repair method, minor pinholes confined to clear coat only. In this case, if the pinhole is light and limited to the color coat, then smooth the surface by wet flattening by P1200 abrasive paper and or compound the area to restore the gloss and remove the minor defects. In the second case, moderate to severe pinhole extending through paint layers. Wet or dry flat the affected area deep enough to completely remove all pinholes. After full removal, refinish the area using the correct undercoat and top coat system, or strip to bare metal if the defect extends deeply or over a large area, then refinish from the substrate upward. Important, never attempt to hide, bridge, or fill pinholes by applying multiple dry coats of the primer surfaces. This will trap air, solvent, causing defects to reappear. Third case is pinholes found after flattening filler or stopper. In this case, when pinholes become visible in body filler or stopper after sanding, then apply a thin, tight spray of stopper directly into the holes. Hold the knife at approximately 90 degrees to the surface to ensure the stopper is pressed deeply into the holes and it is not dragged out as the knife moves across the surface. Allow the stopper to dry, then flat and refinish as normal. Now, coming to some technical instructions that is note related to the pinholes. When pinhole becomes a recurring phenomena issue in a paint shop, then review and correct all conditions that promote rapid surface drying. These include the checking of paint viscosity, ensuring the correct type and grade of thinner is used, and maintain proper shop temperature and controlled air movement. When pinholes persist as a recurring defect, conduct a systematic review of all process parameters that accelerate premature surface film formation, that is, rapid surface dry. Special attention should be given to paint rheology, that is, viscosity profile, solvent blend characteristics, that is, evaporation rate and solvency, booth temperature uniformity, substrate temperature, and airflow velocity patterns within the spray zone. Any deviation that increases the solvent flash-off rate must be corrected to ensure adequate solvent escape from lower film layers and to prevent void entrapment leading to pinholes. With this, we conclude our discussion on the subject of this important paint defect, that is pinholes. Stay tuned and don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe buttons to receive the similar contents in future. Our next topic of discussion would be a very important paint effect, and that is paint addition. Thank you and thank you very much.